All right, welcome back. Part two of this weird little commission. No judgment though. So the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add counter shading on this dinosaur's feathers here. If you're not familiar with counter shading, notice like a lot of birds will have a white underside and a dark top. Same thing with a lot of fish. And it's basically meant to, when you're looking down from the top or the bottom, make them harder to see. I'm also going to have a few stripes in here, I think, because this fella obviously lives in a forested area and it's a predator. So like a lot of forest predators today, cats especially, I figure it would have some stripes to help break up its silhouette. I'm going to start with a little raw umber for that. I'm going to touch in a little bit of that lemon yellow. Not a lot, just a little bit. I got too much paint on the brush there, so beat it up and push it off there on the canvas. We'll just come in. Kind of curving that line to follow the dinosaur's body. Let me get a little water on there, help it break a little bit. Maybe as we get a little further back, we're seeing more of the underside of the tail, so we'll have almost a straight line of that there. Another layer to darken it up. Not darken it up, but another layer to thicken that color. Then I'm going to go with just a little bit of straight lemon yellow. Might mix a touch of that in there. And just lightly graze in a few little highlighted feathers throughout. Where the light's hitting those feathers a little bit differently. Just like we did in the black part. Come over here to where he is. Get another layer of that base in. And then some more yellow just for some real light. A little thick. Let's go ahead and get some in over here just to make it match a little better. Okay, like I said, that's just to kind of break up the silhouette of the creature. I got a dry, clean brush here. Just going in to pull a little bit of that paint off. Blend the edges a little bit. Get a little more texture into those feather areas. Okay. Now we can clean off the brush handle that we accidentally dipped into that white paint. I'm going to go ahead and sharpen up that saddle. I think this will do nicely. This brush here. It's a rounded filbert, I believe it's called. I'm just right now putting another layer in over that base color. You can leave a few little areas that are darker, a few little areas that are lighter, kind of make it look well worn. Got a few little areas here where there's white peeking through I want to paint over. Now I can put some highlights in and just go right into that yellow with that brown color that we already have on the brush. These will be our diffuse highlights. I'm going with a smaller brush later to put in sharper highlights. As you just figure, it's saddle leather's kind of rounded, so it's not gonna be a real sharp highlights or shadows on these. We want them soft. A smaller brush one here. This one's about 3/8 of an inch. Just get some yellow. Again, mix some of that brown mixed in. Take a little orange too. If you feel like it's looking a little too saturated, you can just add in a little bit of gray to dull it a touch. And right at the top of the saddle, we're going to put a little bit of a sharper highlight in. Blend out the bottom. That area there is probably in the light, so we'll need some there. We'll get some along the back of the shadow, on the back of the saddle, I mean. And that area is damp, so it's starting to pull paint off. So try again. Yeah, we're just gonna let that set, paint set, for a little bit. Work on some different areas. We'll take a little bit of black, a little more. So when I get a shadow, where his body is. On the back of that. There's not as much light hitting it. Shadow and highlights are very important to establish depth in your painting. Yellow, I figure that sword's pretty close, so a little shadow there, and get a little bit here. sharper shadow at the bottom of the saddle horn here. Pretty much just straight black with that. And then again, pull down. I'm going to put a little touch in here too. I'm not too worried about that area. Part of his cloak there is going to go over that. It's going to be pretty much straight black. So if I go over that line, I'm not too worried about it. Okay. Let's take another little filbert here. This one's a little smaller than the last one I used. Speaking of straight black. Put our first coat in here for his pants. There with black. You're gonna need to do more than one coat. Unless you have a heavy body paint, and I don't right now. These are just standard acrylics. Well, it doesn't have to be totally even, especially since we'll be going over with more black later. Go ahead and pull it as even as you can. So that'll help reduce the risk of getting texture you don't want in there. I just want to mix a little blue into that black. Gotta make it look shiny. I guess some kind of leather. And pull it out as flat as you can. We can go ahead and get in the back part of the shirt there. Again, this is kind of a bluish mixed into that black. Gives it a subtle little difference from the shirt and pants. It'll help you delineate the outlines in it later when you go to add your detail. The other reason I wanted a little blue in there is that with those yellow lines from the watercolor pencils, they would kind of warm that black up, and I don't want that. So that little blue tint, a little bit of blue mixed in, is just enough to hide that warmth. I suppose I should paint in the sleeves on that coat. Get that paint as flat as you can, but I'm also leaving the hint of where that sleeve is on this jacket. I'm going to pull that out a little further there, so that little white gap. I'm going to take a little more of that. And this coat will run this side filled in. Into the collar there. I think I need to bring that up too, because there's gonna be a collar on that coat. Clean that brush, and then I'm gonna put in the base of his shirt here. Should just be black. No blue mixed into this one. Maybe extend that into that down a little. I don't know if it's showing up on camera, but there is a very, very little slight difference in between the black and the blue black. Helps give us an outline. Pull up a little more down here. The shape of his jacket. And pull the other way across for his pants. Okay. We do need a little more sleeve filled in there. Actually, no, we don't. I need is just a little green in that area. Now, obviously, I don't have any green paint on my canvas, so I'm going to just start mixing the blue and yellow. Some of those browns, get a green color, and I'll get a little black in there to darken it. Maybe a little more yellow in there. Got kind of a greenish black there. Looks a little blue and black. And a little bit lighter of a color. Add in a few details. A little more blue, a little more yellow. Lighten it up some. Add in a little more green in there. Okay. Now I think I want to fill in that sword. Well, first let's see if we can get a little that yellow highlight going on the back of that saddle. See if that's dried enough to take that paint yet. Yep. Get a little bit more there. I think we need a little bit on the saddle horn. Clean the brush. Soften that line out. Okay. I think we're just going to put a base coat in on that sword. Just gray for now. Got a little yellow mixed in with that gray. Differentiate it from those gray clouds. Stands out a little more. Creates a little separation. Let's go ahead now. Mix a little white into the corner on that gray. I think I need a little more. Yep, definitely need more with that white in there. Not standing out very much. We want, from the angle of the sword, we want this area to catch more of the light. So it's gonna be a little brighter. Conversely, looks a little black into that area, gray. This is going to be darker. It's not getting any light catching it. Well, it's getting light, but it's not getting as much. Well, apparently it's a broadsword now. Up that edge. Need a little water. These acrylics dry out pretty darn quick when you pull them flat when you're mixing them. Okay. Let's see how that paint should be dry enough to take another coat now. Black. Start with his pants again. We still got some color showing through, so this will probably take a third layer at some point. When we get to when we'll need that third layer, we can use a smaller brush to make the detailed strokes we need. Again, right now, I'm just trying to get that color. blue on there to mix in again. That might have been too much, so. I'm gonna try a different brush here. Let's see, there we go. Don't worry about that blue-gray being a little light. Because we can use straight black when we go back over it for the third time to add shadows to darken it up. I'm doing this because I want it to look like that jacket. It's made from a different material from his pants and his shirt so that it catches the light differently. And the cloth versus leather thing. And we are starting to lift paint there a little bit, so we better let that rest. And go in and paint the hilt of the sword. And for that I want dark gray. Maybe we'll get a little bit of, that was a little too much, so we'll do it with some of that there. Almost a brown gray. Different alloy than what this sword is made with. Also help it stand out from the black pants. And right now we're just getting in some color. Just that base coat. Bring that out a little more over the base of that sword and bring it up a little higher too. Clean that. Mix a little more white and gray. Small brush. Come over this. Even it out some. Okay. And we can get some dark gray. That might be a little dark. Let's mix a little more gray into there. I don't know if I want quite that much difference. And we can go ahead and get a little white. Put a little gleam right on the cutting edge. And let's get a little bit right here too. Smooth it out where you think it's too sharp. Okay. I'm going to add more highlight to that saddle. I just want to make it stand out a little more. If you make the line too thick, just mix up a little more of that brown. And go over it a little bit. Okay. And paint it in the black of his hair now. And by black, I'm like his hair, I mean the dino rider. And just the base coat. I'll get his beard in there too. Base coat, just getting a little bit of that color in there. Go over and hammer out the details later time. Going back over his pants with the third coat. It's still a little wet on the bottom there. Right now over here, I'm just trying to even out some of those areas where the paint's come through. Yeah, it's starting to lift paint again. Okay. Well, since that's doing that, I'll go ahead and go back over these a little bit. Take some of that yellow again. A little bit of that ochre again. And let's add a titch of orange this time. Give it a nice fiery. Nice fiery appearance. I'll soften those edges too, give it a little bit of break. Doesn't need to be completely even. I just saw there was too much of that black and blue coming through. Come in with a little lighter variation again. Go over it. Put in some highlights. Where the sun's hitting it different. And you mix in a little white to that. Really lighten it up. And that's mainly for these over here on the top. There we go. Now we're getting it. A little bit down there. But I do want to mix a little dark blue. That's kind of right there. Get a little separation. Edges of some of these, a little more variation. Those iridescent feathers. Especially towards the bottom there. Get over here where his head's turned. But I put the black down there. That's not supposed to be black. That's supposed to be the yellow. Let's see if I can scrape some of that off. Use my finger too. Might as well get some of these feathers in up here. Again, starting with the black base. Need a little more of that black paint. I used it all. Pardon those rude noises it was making. on there for the undercoat of the yellow. We'll just let that dry before we put any of that in. Take a little pale blue on that same brush. Some of those areas got a little darker now. All right. All right, I like how those head feathers look. Messy but fierce. Clean that darn handle again. All right, let's see if this paint. Stay. There we go. Much better. And yes, I am well aware that the more detail I put into this painting, the more absurd it becomes. That's okay. Sometimes absurd is fun. Just come in with a small brush to even out those rough areas. Go ahead and get some shadow in this area. Where's arm? Just coming over his jacket. I don't know where that arm is, down over that jacket. Get some things in there that make it look like it's kind of folded. Shade under the collar. Over here as well. Elbow creases. Crease there. I get some shadow at the bottom. Now let's go ahead. Mix a little bluish black again. Get that kind of nice steel steel gray with a little hint of blue in it. Those shadows were a little dark too, so I want to pull up on those to soften them. All right, even that paint's starting to pull up a little bit. Get a little more shadow in there. Maybe I'll just make that on the bottom good and dark. I'm going to have to go over that with one more coat later. That's okay. It's worth the time to get it right. I do need some of that blue and black right up here, though. That color. A little bit over here, too. It wouldn't hurt. A little highlight on his pants. I just want to reshape those a little bit. I need my liner. Need my liner. Putting a few little indications of buttons on his shirt. Line coming down from where it's folded over. Let's go ahead and put a little light on those buttons. Okay, now we can take our feather brush. Make sure it's clean. Get a little bit of that dark base color for these feathers. It's not really dark, but the darker of our yellow feather hues. Those punched in. Get a little yellow. And then some of that lemon yellow white blend. And what the heck, let's be generous. Little titanium white in there too. That's starting to just mix right on the canvas. I'll go load the brush. Just real lightly scrape some of that in there. All right, we're going to take about a 15-minute break. Let everything up here dry nicely. We'll be back to do a little more work.